Hi and welcome to Once Upon Screen Time. It's October and I'm going to keep things spooky for the rest of the month. And I'm going to start with a review and a fairy tale telling of Stranger Things Season 1, Episode 1. Let's go. Once upon a time, in a small sleepy kingdom known as Hawkins, Indiana, there lived 4 geeky kids, an unreasonably anxious mom, and a police chief with a drinking problem. It was a magical land where no one locked their doors, flashlights always flickered dramatically, and the government had zero chill. Thus begins the enchanting and slightly terrifying tale of Stranger Things. So let's dive into the world of Hawkins, where logic is optional. Parents are oblivious, and the laws of physics are more of a suggestion than a rule. Our story opens in a spooky laboratory. The place is dark, sinister, and filled with just the right amount of ominous fog. As we meet the nameless scientists running around in panic, it becomes immediately clear that whatever they're up to is going to end in a lawsuit, or at least serious damages. Enter the monster, who has no chill and decides to make his grand entrance by breaking out of the lab in the most dramatic fashion possible. He's tall and he's slimy. The scientists scream, lights flicker, and within seconds we know that Hawkins, Indiana is about to have a very rough week. Meanwhile, blissfully unaware of the impending horror, we meet our lovable group of nerds: Mike, Dustin, Lucas, and Will. These 4 best friends are doing what any self-respecting group of preteens does in the 80s, playing an epic game of Dungeons and Dragons that's gone for approximately 10 hours just that day. Will, the most timid and least fortunate of the group, ends up rolling the worst luck in the game, and it turns out that's just foreshadowing for his real-life dice roll with destiny. After wrapping up their game and enduring Mike's mother's reminder that they have school tomorrow, the boys set off on their bikes and head home, because no one in Hawkins ever heard of driving their kids anywhere. But then, tragedy strikes. Will, the smallest, weakest, and most narratively doomed of the group, is suddenly alone. Now, in a normal fairy tale, Will would make it home safely, tuck himself into bed, and dream of dragons and treasure. But no, this is Hawkins, where nothing good ever happens after dark. So naturally, Will's journey home is disrupted by a flickering street light and a creepy shadow in the woods that follows him home. Will decides to investigate and prepares to kill whatever it is that he saw. But just like that, our pint-sized protagonist vanishes into thin air. The next morning, as the sun rises over the picturesque town of Hawkins, our attention shifts to the grown-ups. Enter Joyce Byers, Will's mom, and the princess of perpetual panic. Joyce is the kind of mom who doesn't so much parent as she does perpetually worry. She's living in a rundown house, raising 2 boys on her own. But hey, at least she's got a permanent supply of cigarettes and a healthy disregard for sleep. Will's disappearance at this moment, of course, is a big deal to exactly 2 people: his frantic mother Joyce and his awkward brother Jonathan. Everyone else, including the local police, seem to think missing children are just a minor inconvenience. Enter Chief Hopper, a grizzled, sleep-deprived sheriff who looks like he'd rather be doing literally anything else than his job, let alone dealing with a dramatic mother. Hopper, with his mighty hangover and even mightier disdain for his job, assures Joyce that her son probably just ran away or is hiding out somewhere. Because, of course, that's what 12-year-olds do. They just vanish into thin air for fun. But Joyce isn't buying it. She insists that Will wouldn't just run off. He's too responsible, too much of a nerd. In other words, this kid is really not the type to go on a rebellious joyride. Naturally, Hopper brushes her off with the kind of dismissive attitude that would make even the laziest fairy tale king look responsible. But then Joyce starts ranting about how her son has disappeared off the face of the earth. He finally decides to take things semi-seriously, and thus Hawkins is thrown into chaos as the adults realize they might actually have to do something for once. While the grown-ups are fumbling around and muttering things like run away and probably just skip school, something much more interesting is happening elsewhere in Hawkins. Deep in the woods, a strange figure emerges, a young girl with a shaved head, wearing a hospital gown and looking like she just escaped from a sci-fi convention. This is 11, the closest thing this story has to a magical princess, if magical princesses could move things with their minds and were socially awkward. 11 stumbles upon the most magical place of all, Benny's Burgers. There, Benny, the kind local diner owner, takes pity on this wild-looking girl who clearly spent way too long in a poorly lit basement. Benny, who's somehow the only person in town who doesn't immediately scream and call the police when he sees a lost child in a hospital gown. Instead, Benny, who's either an unusually nice guy or criminally underprepared for life in a horror series, offers her a burger and tries to ask her where she came from. 11, however, isn't big on conversation. In fact, she seems to operate on a strict no talking unless it's really creepy policy. Benny calls social services, but before help can arrive, his Good Samaritan moment is cut short when a not-so-nice lady from the lab shows up, looking all sympathetic until, surprise, she takes care of Benny. And by take care of, I mean she murders him. Yep, R.I.P. Benny. You fed a kid a burger and paid the ultimate price. Meanwhile, Mike, Lucas, and Dustin, the three musketeers of bad ideas, decide that they're going to find Will themselves. Because obviously a group of 12-year-olds is way more competent than a trained police force. They grab their flashlights and bikes and set off into the woods, proving that once again, no one in Hawkins has ever heard of asking an adult for help. Armed with nothing but a nerdy determination and a distinct lack of common sense, the boys wander into the forest, calling out for Will and somehow not getting eaten by the monster that snatched him. Just as they're about to give up, they stumble upon something, or rather, someone. 11, standing alone in the rain, looking very, very lost. Now this is the end for now, and it will be continued at a later stage. Goodbye.